said was more than a Kaplan system and process in international politics. It was a bit harder than the previous one, so I think the words will be harder than the last time, but I'll still try my best to explain everything in easy words. So, if you want to see the pictures better, then you can join my presentation, but actually all I have is just pictures. So anyway, oh yeah. Okay, so what the text says is that there are 6 kinds of international systems. The balance of power system, the loose bipolar system, the tight bipolar system, the universal international system, the hierarchical system, and the unit veto system. I'll talk about these a little bit more. I just wanted to give you a little outline. So the first system is the balance of power system. On the right-hand side, you can see a balance. Okay, so this is called a balance. And when the 2 sides are like this, right, it's the same position, that's also called a balance, right? It's a balance. So this system was actually prevalent in the 18th and 19th centuries, maybe the beginning of the 20th century too. Never mind. So what are the characteristics of this system? The first point says increase capabilities but negotiate and not fight. Increase is like go up or grow. And capabilities, I think, in this text means strength, so how strong a country is. Okay, so a country needs to become stronger, but not through war, but through negotiation, right, through talks. And then, if this is not possible, it is really important for a country to become stronger, even there is war. But every country is basically responsible for themselves. Like every country needs to consider their own aims and goals. The third point is limit expansion. Expansion means when a country becomes bigger, so one country cannot take another country or take another country's territories. And then the fourth point is oppose predominance or hegemony, which means there cannot be a situation where one country becomes like really very strong. Like hegemony means that one country is basically the strongest like ever in the system. Number 5 is prevent supranationalism. Supranationalism is basically like an institution that is above the countries, like when you think about the European Union institutions or United Nations or something like that. This system does not allow this, so there's no place for this kind of an institution. So there are separate countries, basically. Like when you think about England, France, and all of these countries before the First World War, this is the balance of power system. And number 6, the 6th point is permit defeated or constrain essential national actors to re-enter, I guess an enter there. Okay, so anyway, national actors in this text means countries. So if a country does not behave well, after they start behaving well, they can come back to this into the system, basically. So, for example, after a war, if a country starts a war and doesn't behave well, then basically it's out of the system. But after the war ends and the country starts behaving well again, then...
What do you mean by behaving well?
Well, it's like keeping the rules, so keep the rules, all of these rules basically. So like not take other territories, blah blah blah. Yeah. So what can make the system unstable? Well, basically, if there's a country that doesn't play according to the rules, right, starts a war or something, for example. Then if a country wants to promote the supranational institution, that's also, it makes the system unstable. And then if there are any changes within the countries, right, I said national actors means countries, but I left it like this, right, in case you read the text, maybe it's easier to understand. So anyway, if there are some changes within the country, so like there are inventions, discoveries, growth of population, new skills, any kind of change in technology, communications, transport, this can also be dangerous. And coalitions. Coalitions are basically, say, friendships between the countries. So if you imagine that there are like 3 countries in the system, okay? There are more, but let's say there are 3. So if 2 of the countries kind of team up against the 3rd country, this is really dangerous for the system, right? So it's not a good thing. And then what basically makes the system work is the stick and carrot technique. So here's a carrot, right? The system gives the countries some benefits, and the system says, okay, if you behave well, you will be able to develop, or something good will happen. If you don't behave well, like if you don't keep the rules, then there's the stick, then we will beat you. That's it. Yeah. So that was the first system. The second system is the loose bipolar system. Loose means not very strict, right? That's our first word. And bipolar means that there are 2 centers, right? 2 poles in the system. This system developed because after the first system, all the countries didn't keep the rules, right? There was the First World War and some other wars before, it doesn't matter. So eventually, the world became divided into 2 blocks, like 2 groups, the communist bloc and NATO. This is at least what the text says. And each bloc has a leader, like it has a strong country in it. And there are supranational and national actors. So, for example, UN or even NATO are forms of supranational actors. Actor means country, so, right? And there are the countries, right? National actors. And supranationalism is really what is new compared to the previous one, because there are the blocks. And there's a universal institution, as I said, for example, the United Nations. So these are the 3 important parts, the 2 blocks and the supranational universal institution. So what are the rules of the system? Well, eliminate the rival block. So eliminate means like kill. Okay, so do everything so that the other block does not exist anymore. That's it. If possible, negotiate, so talk. But if there's no possibility to talk, then small wars are better than big wars. But if there's a big war, then make sure that the other block disappears. There's big competition between the 2 blocks. So there always have to be competition. There always one of the blocks have to be better than the other one. So they increase capabilities, right? Their strengths. Yeah, as I said, big wars are not good. Small wars are kind of okay. Competition, fight so that the other block doesn't become stronger. The universal actor, right, the UN, the supranational institution, is kind of also important. It says subordinate block goals to the universal actor, meaning the blocks kind of need to keep the supranational institutions' rules as well, right? Basically, keeping peace, I guess. Also, it's really important that blocs should try and extend bloc membership, so they will need to take in more countries, invite more countries. There have to be non-bloc members too, so it's not that the whole world needs to be divided into two parts, but there have to be other countries that are not members of the blocs, because this reduces the risk of wars, right? So they can, like, if there's a situation of war, or maybe that a war would happen, then these countries that are not members can kind of help the blocs avoid war. And the universal actors, so a supranational institution like the UN, tries to bring the blocs closer together. These are the characteristics. Now, what makes the system stable? Yeah. So, if countries behave according to the bloc rules, there have to be clear rules to be followed. This is important. Competition. One bloc cannot allow the other bloc to be much stronger. There cannot be a third bloc. So bipolar system, there have to be two centers, cannot be a third one. And the competition, I already said it. What are the threats to the system? War. So if the blocs do not function well, or if this, like, the supranational institution doesn't function well, then a war can happen. And if there's less hierarchy in a bloc, so if a bloc, one of the blocs becomes friendlier, I guess, in a way. Okay. Not really, but okay, let's say so. Okay. Then the next system is the tight bipolar system. Again, this is bipolar, so there are two centers. The text doesn't really give an example because there's no example per se. Tight means really strict. In this system, both blocs are hierarchically organized. Hierarchically organized means that there's a leader, like a big leader, like a big boss, and small bosses, and blah, blah, right? So, like that. So both blocs are like this. There aren't any non-member national actors, so all countries in the world have to be members of one bloc or the other bloc. And there are no universal actors, so there are no supranational institutions. But this is, I think, just a theory, actually. And then there's the universal international system. I kind of put the EU flag here because I think the EU kind of shows what the system is a little bit, not really, like not 100%, but kind of. So a universal international system happens when the universal actor extends its function. So when there's a supranational institution and its functions become better, stronger. Okay. There are political systems involved, and this supranational institution has a lot of functions, like economic functions, political functions, judicial functions. Judicial is like courts. You know, when you do something bad, they take you to court, and then you go to jail or something like that. And administrative functions. The countries are not really countries anymore, or it's not important if they're countries or not. These are informal territorial coalitions. So let's say countries come together if they have a similar goal, right? So they have a goal, they are friends, they come together, they achieve the goal, fine. Next group, right? Next goal, something like that. The membership is open to those who want to keep the rules. That's the only thing you have to do. And to achieve their goals, they only use peaceful methods, so war is out of the question. And decisions in the countries, in the individual countries, are made according to the requirements of the international system. So the international system is kind of more important than the individual countries. What are the rules? Well, there have to be similar values. If there are no similar values, similar goals, then the countries will obviously not want to be part of it. And this universal institution has to have facilities and resources, mainly, I guess, money, that makes it stronger than individual countries. Because this universal institution needs to give hope and needs to motivate other countries to join, and members as well, obviously. What are the threats? Well, the threats are if a country's domestic values, like the values inside of the country, are different from the system's values, like what's happening in Hungary, unfortunately, right now. Yeah. Then there's the hierarchical system. There are two types, a non-directive and a directive. A non-directive is when the actors, the countries are democratic, and directive is when they are authoritarian. Authoritarian means that like there's one ruler and like a king, you know, that's it, like a kingdom, basically. Okay, so what are the characteristics? The national actors, the countries, are territorial subdivisions of the international system and not independent political systems. So there's this big international system. Okay, there are countries, but they're like the same from the inside, I guess. There are similar national rules to the international system. There's kind of like an integration. And the text says that if this system develops, because this system is also like a theory, so system like this is never developed. It's really hard to change only if there's a major event, like a huge war or some kind of a natural disaster or something similar. And then there's a unit veto system. This is again theoretical, so it doesn't exist. And it only works if the actors, like the countries, are able to destroy each other, like all of them have weapons. There are no universal actors.
Not just weapons.
Or
nuclear
yeah.
weapons.
Okay. So, but the idea is that like it's every country for themselves, and the countries are dangerous, right? When it comes to their relationships, and there are no universal actors, and that's it. That was.
Not just weapons, nuclear weapons.
The nuclear weapons, yes, absolutely. So,
Mass destruction, mass destruction weapons.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's make sure to destroy each other.
Exactly.
就是不是最后那个单位否决体系没有之后再讲，安叔你要到前面来吧，不然你没有办法接这个投影片。 号有没有？接触不良，对，接触不良，所以它会有那个长期不良。
等一下。开始。大家你好，我叫袁增，然后是政治系硕士学生，然后现在我的高考的分是International Politics and Sports Chapter 1 to 3。其实我的中文跟英文是两个都还好，所以我开始说中文，可是中间可能说英文，然后里面的中文字全部都是韩文的感觉，韩国有一个汉字，OK。所以我说话中间，如果你听不懂的话，马上告诉我，然后我们可以挑。Before I start, 这个我们的 writer 是 Kenneth Wright， 他是那个现实主义的爸爸，然后 also known as 那个建造国际政治学的集团。然后因为到现在那个新现实主义对我们很有用，对国际政治很有用，所以我们告诉他教他几个八道，然后都是有点特别的，很有意思的，因为他的第一个专业是政治系，数学系，然后他换那个经济系，好像我一样，那个我的专业也是一个器官系，然后这个跟第一个 chapter 有关系。好，这个是context。Chapter 1是 Rules and Theories, and Chapter 2是Reductionist Theories, and third one 是 Systemic Approaches and Theories。这三个句子是那个 key sentences， 那个 Kenneth Wright 想要说什么？所以第一的话，定义 Rules 理论是什么？然后他想要 define 那个什么是理论是什么？理论是定律的介绍说明。然后第二的话，在国际学习用还原主义研究是适合的。还原主义是国际政治的里面的部分可以说明全体的。然后第三是以前的结构主义，英文是还原主义，所以他也批评他以前的结构主义。然后那个课本的第1到3的最大的目的是批评他写以前的论文，然后找到一个渐进办法。我的目标也是一个，当然是了解这个论文是什么，然后这个理论是什么。可是这是我的第一学政治系，对我很难，所以我让这个容易的了解。所以定律是 A 是 B， 然后 A E % 改 B 是，都是从那个科学出来。因为他的本来的专业是数学，所以他就喜欢理跟社会科学跟科学。我们当然知道定律是什么，然后所以理论是什么？他觉得理论有两个种类。第一是理论是把定律的记号。所以比方说，我想要知道那个。社会现象跟投票率有什么关系？ 然后我已经知道，宗教的 religion 跟投票率有关系，这是一个定律，所以然后我可以加那个宗教还是心学还是什么，所以加起来的话，结果当然丰富的很多。这是第一的理论的意思，然后第二是理论是定律的说明介绍。然后这是我自己的想法，对于我来说，理论是一个眼睛 lens， 所以如果我有一个目标，想要知道这个两个有什么关系，是这个现象是什么的话，我可以带理论的连接，然后我可以容易的了解，然后知道那个理论的想法是什么，然后都帮我了解。所以我觉得理论是了解的工具。所以这是test west 的结论。人构成社会科学，所以跟科学不一样。然后所以因果关系不太正确。所以理论不是真理，理论可能有缺点跟优点有很多部分，所以不是真理，这是最重要的。所以我们应了解理论说明定理还是相关关系。所以理论 abstraction 和 simplification 很重要。刚刚我说大家知道。Okay. So 他觉得这个就是还原跟还原之关系。还原就是我刚刚说，里面的部分一个里面的部分可能说明全体，所以他觉得 S Y 觉得他以前的国际政治理论是有两种，一种是还原主义，然后一种是自由主义，这是一个 system 有关系。然后我刚刚说，国家个人国家结构决定国际政治，然后所以国家里面的经济还是人民的心理还是社会，可能决定国际政治。所以那样的理论者都喜欢那个用经济学、心理学，因为这两个以国际政治学发展的更多，所以理论者觉得容易的说明，容易的解释。可是我觉得这个有问题，所以他想要 make other concept how to study 国际政治，所以这个是结构主义。所以新现实主义also known as 结构感觉的现实主义。这个也是在 Chapter 3，所以I can skip it and then Chapter 2是还原主义还是？可是Chapter 2跟3特色是他用那个别的理论，然后他批评。Chapter 2的批评的根本是霍布森跟莱宁的帝国主义的 empirism。empirism 我简单的介绍 ，empirism 是直观主义的问题，是少数人有高分的财富，所以国内利益越来越高，然后竞争激烈，所以他觉得，有人觉得国内没有机会，所以我想要去外面国外有机会，然后他们说国外投资，所以他们找一找还没发展的国家，还没发展的国家需要那个资本， 所以他那样的人，人民的要求是，国家里面跟这个国家contract 还是什么的，都是追归国的，所以帝国主义开始，都是他们的理论，所以他们觉得资本主义的最后是帝国主义，因为雷宁是一个苏联体运的理论者。可是最重要的是外事批评，全部的资本主义国家变成帝国主义，我觉得当然不是。然后他觉得帝国主义论是反面主义，因为国家经济主义那一种经济的竞争激烈，所以能出来一点开始帝国主义，所以国家经济确定那个国际政治，对，外事的批评是这个全部都是反面主义，然后反面主义不完全，当然没错，有的国家是真的有那样的mechanism，可是全部的国家不是，所以他的意思是反面主义对国际政治不够，也需要结构主义 system approaches。所以 chapter 3是 systemic approaches and theories， 本来是 systemic theories， 可是有人觉得这个我们教这个 papers 论文的话有点不够，因为它没有 evidence， 只有那个象例。然后，所以什么是 systemic approaches？What is system？ 这个是我经济的想法，我有一个例子。system 是一个我们上课学校教育是 system， 所以我问你们一下，在高中还是国中的时候，你们为什么上课？为什么上课？
因为是义务教育啊。
义务教育
必须要去，去违法。
有3个选择，学生想要学习，然后学生怕老师，然后台湾教育系统。你现在为什么上？研究生。
现在吗？
对，
现在是第一，以前是3。你应该要增加第4个。
对。
家庭的压力。学生怕老师现在越来越少了。
所以 the answer is 全部都是对的。可是第一是反面主义，因为为什么上课的原因是学生想要学，学生的问题，学生的原因是学生。然后第二是看起来一个 systemic approaches， 因为学生和老师的关系是老师的薪水是从国家来的，所以老师也可能it looks like maybe system 的不错，可是这个的关系也是一个反面主义。然后第3是当然是 systemic approaches， 然后这个可能变成那样，用帝国主义的例子的话，第一是经济理论，第2是国家间相关关系，然后第3是人手。
最后我会看刚才那个
2000年。
对，刚才那个。为什么国家选帝国主义？为什么是3是贝拉斯卡尔？这个原因，贝拉斯卡尔会导致国家选择帝国主义，为什么？怎么推出来的？
这个是一个比的感觉，因为帝国主义没有那个 system approaches， 所以如果在这里有 system approaches 的话，可能balance of power 是
应该比较像是结构的压力，结构 结构的压力，第一国家必须要去强化自己的力量，一定是 balance power， 没关系 ，OK。
但是以前的结构主义学者有很多，比如说罗斯干、斯坦利·霍芬，然后摩尔特内，刚刚他报告，可是他们的理论也很多，我们只有看那个看的，所以已经你们看一看在韩国的报告，所以他觉得国家是国际结构变化的原因，然后国家间相互作用，让国际结构保存。所以我觉得他以前的结构主义学者全部都是那个还原主义，不是那个真的 system-opus 的学者。所以这个也是他的理论，可是他同意 balance of power 是对，所以结论是他们的理论也是还原主义，不是结构主义。所以 Chapter 4他说出来什么是结构主义，他觉得怎么样？是我的报告是第3，所以结束，谢谢。